What is up, Broncos fans? The Denver Broncos show back here again to do another video. In this video, I just wanted to talk about the upcoming NFL free agency period, which starts here in about 2 or 3 hours. I just want to talk about some of the players that I think the Broncos should look to target here in free agency, and also talk about some of the players that the Broncos have already lost via free agency in Julius Thomas and Orlando Franklin. If you haven't heard by now, Julius Thomas is set to sign with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and his deal is going to be roughly around, I think, $45 million, paying him like $9 million per season. So he definitely got paid, got a hefty deal. Congratulations to Julius Thomas on getting that amount of money and getting what he felt he deserved. So congrats to him. And then Orlando Franklin is actually going to one of our biggest rivals, the San Diego Chargers. He's going to sign, I think, a 5-year deal with them, and it's going to be worth, I think, $36 million. He's getting like $20 million guaranteed, $7 million per year, something along those lines. So like Julius Thomas, definitely got paid by the Chargers, and it's a great addition for them. Obviously, it always sucks losing a player to a division rival, whether it be the Raiders, Chiefs, or the Chargers in this case. But that's a great addition for the Chargers, but definitely a hefty price tag, to say the least, for Orlando Franklin. First, talking about Julius Thomas and Orlando Franklin and losing them, what that means to our team, what they're going to bring to their new team. Starting with Julius Thomas, that's a great addition for the Jacksonville Jaguars. That is a phenomenal move by their front office, bringing in a big target like him to support their young quarterback in Blake Bortles. Julius Thomas is obviously one of the best red zone threats in the NFL today. He's a matchup nightmare for opposing linebackers and safeties. He's extremely athletic, and he's definitely one of the best tight ends in the NFL. Now, do I think he's worth $9 to $10 million per year? Probably not. I don't think he's on the same level as a Rob Gronkowski or Jimmy Graham. He's probably in that next tier, and I think people kind of mistakenly put him in that tier. Again, he is one of the best tight ends in the NFL. He's one of the biggest mismatches in the NFL, and he's a huge offensive weapon to have, especially, again, in the red zone and on third down. But I don't think he's the same caliber tight end as Gronkowski or Jimmy Graham. And honestly, I don't think Julius Thomas should make as much as both of those guys, and he's now going to be getting that similar amount of money that Gronkowski and Graham have gotten in New Orleans, in New England, with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that just wasn't a price I think that the Broncos could match. And I think John Elway, in this decision that he made by not matching that offer and not going more aggressively to re-sign Julius Thomas, I think he made the right decision, because I don't think Julius Thomas is worth that price tag. But again, I think he's a great addition to Jacksonville, and I think he's going to be a huge target for Blake Bortles, and definitely going to help his progression going forward. And obviously, he brings some life to what is a pretty lifeless offensive unit in Jacksonville. So it's a great addition for their team. And in terms of what how big a loss is this for our offense, I don't think it's probably as big a loss as people are going to make it out to be. I mean, yes, Julius Thomas again has been a touchdown machine over the past 2 seasons. Has obviously caught 24 touchdowns. Had a huge year in 2013 where he had 65 catches, 788 yards, and of course 12 touchdowns. But he's missed 7 games over the past 2 seasons, and in those 7 games, the Broncos went 6-1. So when he was out of games, we didn't really falter from it offensively. I still think we have enough firepower on the outside with Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders to make up for losing Julius Thomas. And if we re-sign Virgil Green or go out and get a tight end or draft a tight end, there's plenty of ways we can replace him. And again, you're 6-1 in games the past 2 seasons that Julius Thomas hasn't played in. So again, Julius Thomas is a guy. He's not very physical in general. He's not the same type of physical specimen or plays with the same level of physicality as a Jimmy Graham or a Rob Gronkowski. And he's not nearly the blocker either one of those guys is. He's just not a good blocker from a technique standpoint, from a physical standpoint. He just doesn't do that very well. So it's definitely a loss. Julius Thomas will be missed, especially in the red zone next season for our offense. But again, he's a guy that I think we can replace. He goes 6-1 in the 7 games he doesn't play over the past 2 seasons. And you look at some of the guys on the tight end free agent market that you can replace him with. Jordan Cameron, who's a free agent, obviously a former tight end for the Browns. You look at what he did in 2013. He had 80 catches for 917 yards and 7 touchdowns that season, put up very similar numbers to Julius Thomas. Actually had more catches and more yards than he did in 2013. So this is a guy that could definitely, I think, come right in in and really replace Julius Thomas for the Broncos. Jordan Cameron is a very, very good athlete. I mean, this is a guy that ran a 4.53, I think, at the combine when he came out of college at USC. So he's a phenomenal athlete. He's a former basketball player like Julius Thomas. There's just some questions about his durability. He's had a shoulder injury that has been reoccurring over the past 2 seasons, so he's missed several games. So you hope that he can stay healthy, but he's still young. He's a guy that can definitely stretch a defense. He can attack the middle of the field. He's definitely a great red zone threat. He's got great hands. And again, you look at those numbers he put up in 2013 when he was healthy. They were better than Julius Thomas's. Again, he didn't get 12 touchdowns, but he still had 7 and had 917 yards and 80 catches. I think he'd fit well in Kubiak's offensive system and definitely would be a guy Peyton Manning would definitely love to throw the football to next season. And they look at Owen Daniels. This is a guy that obviously is very familiar with Gary Kubiak. Has played all 9 of his NFL seasons under Gary Kubiak. Spent 8 seasons with him in Houston when Kubiak was the head coach, and spent last season with him in Baltimore, of course, when Kubiak was the offensive coordinator. And you look at what Owen Daniels has averaged over those 9 seasons with Kubiak. He's averaged 48 catches, 571 yards, and 4 touchdowns per season in 9 seasons under Gary Kubiak. So this is a guy that obviously is very familiar with our coaching staff, with Kubiak, with the offensive scheme. He fits well. He's had success in the offensive scheme, and he's a pro's pro. I mean, he's a sure-handed guy. He's a great receiver to have on third down. He's a veteran guy. Again, I think he'd get along fairly well with Peyton Manning. He's very familiar with our team, and he's another guy that could somewhat supplant Julius Thomas's red zone production next season. He's another guy like Jordan Cameron, very effective in the red zone, and he's a veteran. So he wants to win a championship. He's been on some very successful football teams in Houston, and of course last season in Baltimore. And I think again he'd also be a great fit. And another guy that could definitely replace Julius Thomas. Orlando Franklin, on the other hand, we're definitely going to miss his versatility. We're going to miss his youth. I mean, this is a guy that's only 26, 27 years old, so he's about to enter his prime. And everyone says about Orlando Franklin, he plays with a fieriness. He plays with a sense of nastiness, if you will. And you're obviously going to miss that. You're going to miss his physicality and his physical presence across the offensive line. But there's plenty of games where I saw Orlando Franklin just get eaten alive, especially in the pass blocking game. He will definitely miss him in the run game. He's definitely kind of a big mauler. But again, I think this is a position where we could definitely replace Orlando Franklin in the draft. This is a very deep draft in terms of the offensive linemen in it. So whether it be in the first, second, or third round, you go out and draft an offensive tackle, a right tackle, or interior lineman, a guard, and definitely supplant that guy right into Orlando Franklin's place, or go out and sign someone. There's plenty of options, but I think the Broncos definitely would probably look more so to the draft to replace Orlando Franklin. And I definitely think he's honestly probably a bigger loss than Julius Thomas, and we're definitely going to miss his versatility. And he definitely is going to bring a physical presence there to San Diego. Obviously, he's very familiar with Mike McCoy, the head coach there, and I think he's a great addition to that football team. So it's definitely a big loss for us, and I think he's going to be tougher to probably replace than Julius Thomas next season. So definitely sucks to lose both those guys, but best of luck to both of them. I have nothing too bad to say about Julius Thomas or Orlando Franklin. Good luck to both of them in their new situations, and San Diego fans and Jacksonville fans, you're getting 2 pretty good football players. As for some other names that the Broncos could look to target here in free agency, Vince Wilfork, I'd love to see us go out and get him. Obviously, the Patriots just released him. That's a guy that knows how to win championships, has been on some really good defenses there in New England, and he fits perfectly in our new 3-4 defensive scheme. Play that zero technique, be that nose tackle. He's a space eater, and especially if we lose Terrence Knighton reportedly to Oakland, looks like they're trying to get him. You're obviously going to have to fill that position of need, and then Vince Wilfork would also do that for you, replace Terrence Knighton, and again, I think maybe even be an upgrade over him and really fit our new 3-4 defense under Wade Phillips very well. At that zero technique again. Andre Johnson, wide receiver from Houston, another guy I'd love to see the Broncos target. Apparently the Colts are really pushing hard for him, so he might be going to Indy, but obviously he's familiar with Gary Kubiak, and what wide receiver wouldn't want to come play with Peyton Manning and alongside Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. I mean, he'd be a phenomenal fit here. He's a big-bodied, physical wide receiver. Demaryius Thomas is almost like a younger version of Andre Johnson, so I think he'd be a great fit next to Demaryius Thomas, be kind of a mentor to him as well. and just be a great addition to our team. And again, he knows Kubiak's had his most successful seasons in the NFL in Kubiak's offensive system, and I think he would love to play next to next to guys of the caliber of Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. So another guy I think we could look to target here in free agency. But it looks like the Broncos are really just kind of standing pat, kind of seeing how the market plays out, seeing what guys become available and what where players go, and kind of making their decisions off that. Obviously, the Broncos have been super aggressive over free agency over the past few seasons, but I think this season they're kind of just taking a wait and see approach, and I think it's smart. I think John Elway is conserving some money right now. I'd love to see us obviously re-sign Raheem Moore, especially now that we have a little money, I guess, saved from not paying Julius Thomas. Maybe give some of that money to Raheem Moore. I think he's a huge part of our defense. I think he kind of gets a bad rap for obviously that play that he allowed to happen against Baltimore in the playoff game a few seasons ago, but he's one of the better safeties in the NFL, and I think he'd be a huge guy to lose for us in the back end of our defense, and a tough guy to replace, honestly. He's also young, too, and about to enter the prime of his career, so Raheem Moore, another guy I wouldn't mind seeing the Broncos re-sign, and I think that's kind of what the Broncos are probably mainly focused on, just re-signing their own guys now, and just seeing how the market, kind of plays out. They've been super aggressive the past few seasons, but I think you kind of see the Broncos maybe stay more on the sidelines this year and kind of make some more, smaller moves, but kind of smart, more calculated moves this year rather than the big splashy move of, Peyton Manning or Wes Welker, DeMarcus Ware, Keith Talib, that sort of stuff. So that's my video, guys, kind of my, I guess, preview of free agency, kind of breaking down, obviously, the Broncos losing Julius Thomas and Orlando Franklin. Leave me a comment below. What do you think of Julius Thomas signing with the Jacksonville Jaguars and Orlando Franklin signing with the San Diego Chargers? What do you think they bring to their new teams? And how big of losses do you think those guys are going to be for us next season? What other Broncos free agents would you like to see the team re-sign? What are other free agents would you like to see the Broncos target? Maybe to replace Julius Thomas or Orlando Franklin, maybe Terrence Knight as well. As I said, he might be going to Oakland. Always love hearing from you guys. Love communicating with my fellow Broncos fans and fellow football fans. So would love to hear your guys' thoughts on free agency as well. So thank you for watching, guys. Look forward to seeing what the Broncos do today and later into the week, see who they sign, see what players we may lose, and see what John Elway does once again this offseason. So take care, guys, and as always, go Broncos.